The film opens with Yelina, a skilled special agent entrenched in the shadows of covert operations, tasked with executing the dirty work of powerful organizations erasing evidence and carrying out morally ambiguous missions. She finds herself ensnared in a web of despair. Haunted by a profound sense of emptiness, Yelina is weary of her life's relentless cycle and yearns for an escape from her grim reality. In a mission, she infiltrates a high-security research laboratory belonging to the enigmatic OXE group. With deft precision, she dismantles the security, but her attempt to breach the inner sanctum falters against an impenetrable lock. Frustrated and desperate, she resorts to a drastic measure. She obliterates the entire facility, leaving chaos in her wake. Meanwhile, we are introduced to Mr. Barnes, affectionately known as Bucky, by his old friend, Captain America. Now a member of Congress, he navigates a world where the Avengers have disbanded. Their once unbreakable bond now a distant memory. Enter Ms. Valentina DeFontaine, the cunning director of the CIA, a woman shrouded in secrets. She once held the chairmanship of the notorious OXE, an organization rumored to be involved in heinous human experimentation across the globe. As she stands before Congress, defending herself against grave allegations, Bucky listens intently, his expression a mask of skepticism. After the trial, Valentina discreetly inquires of her assistant whether all incriminating evidence has been obliterated, receiving a reassuring confirmation. She then learns that only one final assignment remains to be dispatched. In a poignant moment, Yelina visits her father, Alexei, confiding her desire to leave her perilous line of work. Yet he urges her to reconsider, instilling in her a sense of pride in serving her country. Inspired by his words, she resolves to contact Valentina. Yelina had made a bold decision. She was ready for a job change, yearning for recognition in a world that had long overlooked her. Valentina, her mentor, cunningly offered her one final assignment with OXE, a mission that would determine her fate. Complete this task, Valentina promised, and she would be free. Her last assignment took her to an OXE facility nestled deep within the mountains of vault housing, the organization's most sensitive assets. Whispers of theft had reached Valentina's ears, and Yelina was tasked with uncovering the truth behind the disappearing assets. She was instructed to track the thief, discover what was being stolen, and eliminate the threat. Armed with access to all the security locks, she approached the imposing structure, her heart racing with anticipation. As she reached the building, a flicker of movement caught her eye. Another agent, cloaked in the ability to vanish at will, slipped inside. The tension in the air was overwhelming. Could this be her rival? A chilling thought crossed her mind. The ongoing congressional trial had implicated OXE in heinous human experiments, and Yelina had been working tirelessly to erase all traces of the evidence. Determined, Yelina pressed on, navigating through dimly lit corridors until she stumbled upon a room brimming with high-tech equipment. Papers and photographs were present on the table, and she quickly gathered them, stashing them in her suit. But just as she turned to leave, an unexpected assailant struck Walker, a man who bore an uncanny resemblance to Captain America, but with a gun and a shield. A cheap imitation, perhaps, but a formidable agent nonetheless. Once a decorated veteran, he had fallen from grace after a tragic incident involving an innocent life. Yelina and Walker were locked in a fierce battle, each determined to eliminate the other. Just as the tension reached its peak, a masked female agent burst onto the scene, delivering a swift kick to Walker. "I'm not here for you, Yelina," she declared, her voice steady and resolute. "I'm here for him." As the chaos unfolded, the enigmatic agent known as Ghost made her entrance, with the uncanny ability to vanish and reappear at will. She was a formidable force, a rogue operative wanted in 15 countries for her numerous crimes. Her true identity, Ava. With a fierce determination, she turned her attention to the third agent, and the intensity of the confrontation escalated. Each combatant had a target, and the stakes were higher than ever. In a shocking turn of events, Ghost unleashed a deadly shot, striking the third agent squarely in the head. The room fell silent for a heartbeat, the gravity of the moment hanging in the air like a thick fog. Suddenly, a cough broke the stillness, drawing their attention to a man emerging from the machinery area. Panic flickered in his eyes as he attempted to flee, but in a chilling synchrony, all the gates slammed shut, sealing them inside. The scene shifted dramatically to a lavish party hosted by Valentina, where the elite mingled under the glimmering lights. Among the guests were influential figures, including Congressmen Barnes and Gary. As they navigated the crowd, Gary leaned in close to Valentina, his voice laced with skepticism. "Throwing a party won't change the votes against you," he warned, his tone grave. Meanwhile, Barnes was playing his own game, attempting to charm Valentina's assistant, Mal, into revealing incriminating evidence against her. But despite his efforts, he found himself thwarted at every turn, the elusive proof slipping through his fingers like sand. The scene shifts once more to the dimly lit room where the three agents stood, their eyes fixed on a man clad in a sleeping suit. He introduced himself as Bob, a name that would soon become synonymous with confusion and betrayal. As the agents began to question Bob, tensions flared and accusations of theft erupted among them like wildfire. In the midst of the chaos, Yelina's mind raced. The truth dawned on her with chilling clarity. They had all been operatives for Ox, pawns in a game orchestrated by Valentina, who now sought to eliminate them. Yet, Walker remained obstinate, refusing to accept the grim reality unfolding before him. Determined to fulfill his mission, Walker turned his focus back to Bob, who claimed ignorance about how he had ended up in this perilous situation. Meanwhile, Ava, believing that her mission is complete, made the decision to leave. As she approached the gate, intent on disintegrating her way to safety, a piercing, high-pitched buzzing filled the air, a sound so intolerable it sent shivers down their spines. It became painfully clear they were ensnared in a deadly trap, lured into a scenario designed to incite their mutual destruction. In a lavish chamber elsewhere, Valentina reveled in the chaos, her eyes glinting with malice. Her assistant, Mel, reported that Level 5 had been sealed off completely. With a flicker of impatience, Valentina commanded Mel to incinerate the agents. But when Mel hesitated, Valentina took matters into her own hands, her resolve as cold as the steel of the vault. Suddenly, alarms blared, and the temperature within the vault began to soar. It was an incinerator, and the countdown had begun to minutes until they would be engulfed in flames. The agents, trapped by the sound barrier, frantically searched for the source of the deafening noise. As they found the power source of the noise, they damaged it, granting Ava a fleeting opportunity to escape. Time slipped away like sand through fingers, and Yelina found herself lost in a void. The realization struck her. Their time was running out, and incineration loomed ominously. Just as despair threatened to consume them, the gate swung open, and they dashed through, narrowly evading death's grasp. Meanwhile, Yelina lay unconscious, trapped in the grip of a haunting childhood memory, one where she had unwittingly played a role. In her friend's tragic demise, the weight of guilt was unbearable. But then, through the haze of her recollections, she saw Bob standing there, a beacon of hope. As Yelina regained consciousness, she found Bob beside her, his hand gently resting on hers, as if he were sharing in her torment. Concern etched on her face. She asked if he was all right, and he nodded, affirming his well-being. In a different part of the facility, Mel informed Valentina that her elusive guest had evaded the incinerator and was now collaborating with others. Valentina's eyes narrowed with determination as she ordered Mel to summon the strike team and put an end to this once and for all. Her gaze shifted to Bob, and she commanded Mel to gather intelligence on him. Unbeknownst to them, the driver, none other than Yelina's father, Alexei, listened intently, his heart heavy with the weight of secrets. In the vault, tension escalated as Walker confronted Bob. Just as the situation threatened to spiral out of control, Yelina intervened, saving Bob from Walker's wrath. In their ensuing conversation, Yelina sensed the shadows of loneliness that haunted Bob, a void that mirrored her own. As they connected, Walker seized the opportunity to breach a wall, leading them to the summit of a seemingly endless tunnel. As Walker hoisted Bob upward, he was abruptly transported, into a haunting memory of a heated argument with his wife, their voices echoing in his mind. Just then, he heard Yelina calling his name, snapping him back to the present. He found himself teetering on the precipice of the tunnel, a perilous drop that could spell his demise. He glanced at Bob, but the weight of unspoken words hung heavily between them. Outside, the strike force had arrived, poised to eliminate them without hesitation. Meanwhile, Mel confided in Valentina, revealing that Bob's true identity was Robert Reynolds, a subject of the notorious Sentry Project. He was meant to be dead, but his survival signified something far more ominous. As Yelina strategized their next move, Valentina stormed in, commanding her team to capture them alive. In that tense moment, Yelina ignited an explosion, sending shockwaves through the air as the strike force surged forward. The plan had been to blind the incoming strike force, which relied on night vision. A sudden burst of light would have given the agents a crucial advantage. But fate had other ideas. The explosion short-circuited the electrical systems, plunging them into darkness. Yet, against all odds, the agents rallied, ready to confront their adversaries with unwavering resolve. Yelina clutched Robert tightly, determined to keep him safe. Disguised as soldiers, the trio ventured outside, their hearts pounding with anticipation. As they emerged into the open air, Ava arrived in a truck, and they quickly piled in. However, their escape was abruptly halted by the menacing presence of a security team. Sensing the imminent danger, Robert made a fateful decision. He leapt from the vehicle, drawing fire and attention to himself in a desperate act of sacrifice. Bullets rained down upon him, and to everyone's astonishment, he rose again, defying the odds. Then, in a breathtaking display of power, he began to levitate. But as the gunfire erupted once more, he shot skyward like a bullet, piercing the clouds above. Yet, just as hope surged, he fainted, plummeting back to Earth in a devastating crash that left onlookers in shock. Robert was captured and taken to the OX East clandestine lab, now sealed off from the world. Meanwhile, the agents quickly pieced together the truth. Robert was part of the Sentry Project. As they navigated the shadows, a vehicle approached, and they instinctively hid. To their surprise, it was none other than Alexei who urged them to unite against Valentina. But their moment of hope was short-lived. The strike force's cars were hot on their trail, closing in with ruthless intent. And despite their valiant efforts, the agents found themselves overwhelmed. Just when despair threatened to consume them, an explosion shattered the chaos. A car was blown to pieces. The remaining vehicles soon met the same fate, thanks to the unexpected arrival of the Winter Soldier, who emerged from the shadows with lethal precision. Joy surged through the agents as they celebrated their unexpected ally. But their relief was short-lived. The Winter Soldier, in a swift and brutal maneuver, took out their vehicle as well. Valentina stood poised to meet Robert, fully aware of the shadows that loomed over his troubled past and fragile mental state. She sought to entice him into embracing the role of the superhero they had envisioned together. As her fingers brushed against his hand, a chilling memory surged through her, a haunting vision of her father's brutal murder. In that moment, she recognized the untapped potential within Robert, and just as she was about to depart, he surprised her by agreeing to become the Sentry hero. With a sense of urgency, Valentina instructed Mel to create a kill switch for Robert, a precaution in case he spiraled out of control. They were on the brink of a monumental announcement, yet Mel sensed an impending storm on the horizon. Meanwhile, all the agents were bound and captive with Bucky, their very existence serving as damning evidence against Valentina. As the plane was about to descend, preparing to transport them, they desperately tried to reason with Bucky, warning him about Robert's transformation. But he remained unmoved until Mel's phone rang, echoing their claims and lending weight to their desperate plea. Finally convinced, Bucky resolved to intervene and stop Robert. Initially, the agents were skeptical, viewing Bucky and his team as adversaries. However, Bucky's unwavering determination swayed them, and they set their sights on their target. As they approached, chaos erupted. They clashed with security forces, and Valentina, watching from above, beckoned them closer. There, they beheld Robert, transformed and formidable. Valentina proclaimed him the greatest superhero of all time, more powerful than all the Avengers combined. With a chilling command, she ordered him to eliminate the intruders. The agents fought valiantly, but they were swiftly overpowered, forced to retreat in the face of Robert's overwhelming strength. Once again, Valentina commanded Robert to finish them off, but to her astonishment, he hesitated. He regarded them not as threats. Valentina was caught off guard. Robert, once a mere mortal, began to grasp the extent of his newfound power. With an air of authority, he declared to Valentina that it would be beneath a god to take orders from a mere mortal. Sensing the precariousness of the situation, Valentina prepared to activate the kill switch. But Robert, quick as lightning, seized her by the throat, not with the intent to kill, but to assert his dominance. At a tense moment, the switch was pressed, and to everyone's shock, it was Mel who had taken the decisive action. Robert collapsed to the ground, and an ominous black shadow enveloped him, consuming his very essence. Meanwhile, Yelina, after the defeat, ran away. Alexei sprinted after Yelina, urgency etched on his face. In a heart-wrenching exchange, father and daughter confronted their fears, and Yelina steeled herself to face the chaos unfolding around them. Then, the crowd gasped as Robert emerged, suspended in the sky like a dark specter. The void that had claimed him now bestowed upon him unimaginable powers. One by one, he transformed his attackers into shadows, their forms dissolving into nothingness. As he turned the soldiers aboard a helicopter into mere silhouettes, the aircraft spiraled out of control, crashing into a towering crane. The structure crumbled, sending a cascade of debris raining down upon the unsuspecting civilians below. In a display of unparalleled bravery, the agents risked their lives to shield the innocent from the falling wreckage. Their heroic efforts ignited a wave of gratitude from the crowd, who erupted in cheers for these valiant soldiers. But just as hope flickered in the air, the unthinkable occurred, plunging the scene into a deeper darkness. The darker side of Robert began to transform everyone around him into mere shadows. No one was safe from its insidious grasp. Panic ensued as people fled in terror. Yet Yelina stood resolutely alone, gazing into the abyss that had consumed Robert. In a moment of profound clarity, she embraced the darkness. The malevolence spread like wildfire, relentless and unstoppable. When Yelina awoke, she found herself ensnared in a labyrinth of her most harrowing memories, each one replaying with relentless precision. One by one, she traversed the corridors of her past, desperately searching for Robert. As she spoke his name, she caught a glimpse of him sitting forlornly in the mirror. "I just want to talk," she implored, and in an instant, he materialized before her. "Stop this," she urged, her voice trembling with urgency. But Robert, shackled by his own void, replied with a heavy heart, confessing his powerlessness against the haunting echoes of his childhood. Compassion welled up within her. She knew they had to escape this torment together. Yet, as they resolved to break free, chaos erupted around them. Just as they were on the brink of suffocation, their team, now known as Thunderbolts, arrived, rescuing them from the brink of despair. Determined, they ventured through the darkest chambers of their shared nightmare. One by one, they fell through the rooms of their past until they landed in a lab, the very same lab in Malaysia that Yelina had once obliterated. It was here that Robert had been irrevocably transformed as he recounted his tragic tale. The darkness within him loomed ominously at the table, whispering insidious lies that he was nothing, worthless. Yelina confronted this malevolent force, declaring, "We are leaving." But the darkness tightened its grip, binding them to the walls and racks of despair. Robert grappled with the suffocating grip of his inner darkness, but ultimately, he succumbed to its relentless pull. The darkness whispered insidiously, taunting him with the notion that he would forever be alone. Enraged by this cruel assertion, Robert lashed out, striking at the very shadows that tormented him. Yet, as he fought, he felt an unsettling satisfaction, emanating from the darkness within, a sinister smile lurking in the depths of his soul. Around him, chaos erupted, the world fractured under the weight of his turmoil, and a creeping black shadow began to envelop him, just as despair threatened to claim him entirely. Yelina broke free from her own shackles and rushed to Robert's side. With unwavering love and support, she reached out to him, and in that moment, the oppressive power of the darkness began to wane. One by one, others emerged from their own struggles, joining them in solidarity. As their collective strength surged, the shadows that had consumed Robert began to dissipate, and the darkness that had shrouded the city lifted. Those who had been transformed into mere shadows returned to life, their spirits rekindled. In the aftermath, Robert found himself adrift, his memories of the harrowing battle fading like a distant dream. Yelina reassured him, promising that they would stand together from that moment forward. But their moment of solace was abruptly interrupted when they spotted Valentina, urgently calling for extraction. They hurried to her side, only to be met with an unexpected revelation. She introduced them as her research subjects and the new Avengers. 14 months passed, and the newly formed Avengers found themselves embroiled in a myriad of challenges, not least of which was the contentious issue of their name. Tensions rose as Sam Wilson sought to establish his own team, which was also intended to bear the title of the Avengers. As the tension mounted, a startling report emerged. A spacecraft was piercing through Earth's atmosphere. The team anxiously awaited the images, their hearts racing with anticipation. When the visuals finally arrived, they revealed an astonishing sight: a ship belonging to none other than the Fantastic Four. In that electrifying moment, the screen faded to black, leaving the audience breathless and yearning for more. The film concluded, but the adventure had only just begun.